The first thing that I dislike about the Audi FSI platform is the throttle response. Although the car gives you a bang for your buck for the 2.0 platform, I feel that it's really lacking in the throttle response. Once you step on the gas, there's a major lag in the vehicle. And sometimes when you're in traffic and you're just trying to get around that one person, or you're trying to get that real quick spool time, you got that big pause like everyone knows, and then your car just jerks you when it goes. So I really felt like Audi could have done a better job in getting that lag in order. In my new 2019 Audi Q5, I have the same issue. And so that's one of the biggest things I know a lot of us dislike about this vehicle. And through looking at forums and looking online, you can see a lot of individuals looking into two-step systems or anti-lag systems. But ultimately, the majority of the people that follow me and on the forums use their vehicle as a daily driven vehicle. If you're really trying to take it to the next level, you really don't care if it's too loud, exhaust, etc. So I definitely feel that this is an area that always has bothered me and that I would like improve. So what I've come up with, that was my resolution, rather than me going with the two-step or the anti-lag system, is my sprint booster. I feel like the sprint booster is an awesome tool that you can use to get rid of that lag from the throttle to the engine, which is caused by computer communication. And I've done a separate video on a sprint booster to explain how it works. And I'm going to also give you guys a quick clip real fast just to reiterate how it works for the individuals who have not watched that video. But I suggest you go watch that video on how it works. Here's the video. So as you can see, the benefits of the sprint booster. So if you're struggling with that lag, if you want to have a quick response, if you want to be able to move as fast as you can, or if you want to do a quick pull, I think the sprint booster is the ultimate buy to help you get rid of that lag that a lot of people complain about in the slow throttle response of the vehicle. So that's the first thing that I really dislike about my vehicle, and that's the solution. The second thing I hate, and I know a lot of you guys probably have experienced this, especially if you have a boosted vehicle, is a leaky valve cover. You know, you get the little oil that's kind of leaking from your valve cover. And you know, the reason why is Audi uses a silicone versus an actual seal. I know there's some aftermarket companies that actually will sell a seal for you that you can use. I'm not sure if it's for every platform, but I know it's for the B8, you know, or the 2.0 platform, that they use the actual silicone. Just over time, it just wears out. You know, silicone is not meant to last forever like a traditional seal. I would say after 75,000 miles, you're going to start to notice that, or if you're pushing your car really hard, you may notice it, you know, before 75,000 miles. So one of my remedies that I did that helped me, you know, at one point was I actually just tightened all of the screws on the valve cover and it stopped. So a lot of times when you're running your car, you have that vibration from the cold start. It can just loosen up. So, you know, just tighten those screws. Let that be a first step that you you do for your vehicle. And the second thing that I did is I bought an oil catch can. So what the oil catch can did for me is it an oil catch can with a breather. I put a breather on my oil catch can. So what they did is help to release some of that crankcase pressure from the engine, and that allowed my engine to breathe better. It didn't have that built up pressure inside, because a traditional PCV works with, once the pressure goes in and it's a certain amount of pressure, it's spring loaded to where it will open up and allow, you know, that extra blow by, that pressure to go run back into the intake manifold. And that's how your system is, and that's why you get carbon buildup. So oil catch can prevent the carbon buildup. I have a video on that if you guys want to watch it, and at the same time it can help you with that crankcase pressure. So if you're having a leaky valve cover, it's not your fault. You're not doing anything wrong. It's known for Audi to leak from there, especially if you have a lot of miles on your car. The oil catch can is something that you definitely can do to help your, you know, vehicle with that crankcase pressure, because especially if you're tuning your vehicle hard, even if you're not tuning and you're driving it hard, you're going to get a lot of boost that's going to go into your engine and ultimately make it past the pistons, and it's just going to make your vehicle work that much harder, and eventually it will start leaking from the valve covers. There may be a few lucky people out there, but I've owned 4 Audis and I have a 2019 Audi, so these are my experiences along with a lot of my buds who own Audis as well. So I'm not an expert, I'm just pretty much sharing the knowledge that I've learned and I've obtained. The third thing is kind of in the same boat. It's going to be the timing chain cover. You may notice that you're parking your car, you got an oil leak, you don't know where it's coming from. It's the timing chain cover. You know, so if you haven't been to the dealer to, you know, they offer warranties on timing chain, they offer warranties on tensioners. So make sure that you look up your VIN to see if you have that warranty for the piston rings, the tensioner, the timing chain. They do offer extended warranty if you haven't exceeded the miles on the vehicles. But the timing chain cover is another thing that leaks ultimately over time. And so like I said, taking that extra pressure out the engine, adding that catch can will, with the breather, will help your vehicle with the crankcase pressure, which will ultimately stop you from leaking from those specific parts of your vehicle. Also, the same thing with the timing chain. You want to make sure it's tightened. You know, a lot of times we just use our vehicle so much, and from those cold starts and just driving it, we just need to kind of retorque and tighten things in our vehicle. Like back in the days, I was really big into systems, and you know, one of the biggest things was make sure you're tightening those bolts so you won't have that super rattle. Some people like the rattle. I'm not gonna say I didn't like the rattle, but you want to just make sure that you're tightening up, especially if you always just do that service and tightening up, checking the bolts in your engine. You'll be amazed. A lot of times just the quick tight on that valve cover, on those engine mounts, or on that timing chain cover can probably resolve your issue. Also, I may mention this on a later one, but it kind of works for both. You can use Lucas engine oil stabilizer, and it will ultimately help to get the right amount of thickness in your vehicle, where it'll keep the oil thick enough to where it won't seep through those valve covers. Because a lot of times when you don't change your oil, or you're running your car at a really hot temps and pushing it hard, the more you drive, the hotter your engine gets, the thinner the oil gets, and then that's when you can start seeping through. So if you're not servicing your engine, or if you're using a low grade engine oil, you know that could even cause your engine to leak if the engine is too thin and you're not using the required one for your vehicle. I know for a lot of audits it's 5W40, but if you go with let's say a thinner one, then you're going to run into that issue where it could leak just because it's not thick enough. So it's always good to add that. You don't want to be too crazy with it, but just put enough in there to where it can just kind of help that engine oil keep its thickness to where it can keep everything lubricated. Also, if you're servicing your engine oil by yourself, a lot of times people can overfill their engine oil. So people don't notice, maybe the engine oil light will come on, right? So it comes on and you're like, okay, I need to put oil, but a lot of times this car can be tricky. I definitely recommend to get the stick. It's like $2-3 on eBay or Amazon, because this car will tell you your engine oil is low when it's really not. You could be off level just enough to where it will say it's low, You go get a quart of oil, you put it in there, you put too much oil in your car. So your car now has too much oil. And what happens is, if you put too much oil in your vehicle, one of the things that can happen is one, it's going to be too much pressure. The oil won't do its job. The compression will start causing it to bubble up to where it won't get to the essential parts, and it will push that oil out of your engine. So please make sure before you add oil to your car that you let your car warm up, that you're leveled and you're balanced. Don't check your oil after you just drove 1,000,000 miles per hour unless you have that oil stick. Always let the oil settle and let the oil get back to the core base, because when you're driving your car, the coolant and the oil goes through the engine. That's why you may notice your coolant may be a little bit lower, or your engine oil may be lower, because it circulates through the engine. So you got to give it time to circulate back into the reservoirs before you add that oil. So that's going to be my take on the engine as far as a resolution for the leaky valve covers in the timing chain, which is 2 and 3. The fourth thing I don't like about my Audi is turbo exhaustion. Now, I can say a lot of the turbo exhaustion comes from individuals, the way that they operate their vehicles. But overall, I noticed that since we have a smaller turbo KO3, it exhausts really fast. So I'm going to give you guys some tips on how you can prevent your turbo from being exhausted, and also some things to make your turbo last a little bit longer. So the first thing is, when you're starting your car from a cold start, don't race your engine immediately. Give it a good 15 seconds for the engine oil to warm up, because a lot of times when you do that, you put a big strain on your turbo, and it's hard for it to recover from that strain, throughout the day. The second thing is, don't push your vehicle hard, because when your engine is cold, the engine oil is still kind of goopy and it's kind of thick. And if you try to immediately start racing it, it's kind of like the first thing, but if you immediately start racing it or pushing it hard, it's the engine oil is not loose enough for that turbo to really just use it, and you can cause your turbo to immediately start working tremendously hard. So if you want to do some runs or some pulls, you already put that strain on your turbo. So if you want to get that full effect, you would have to let it cool down. So always let that engine oil, just kind of loosen up before you start pushing it really hard through the turbo. This may be kind of a simple suggestion, but old engine oil, make sure you're changing your engine oil. Make sure that you're checking your engine oil. Make sure you're checking your engine oil level. A turbo will burn out super fast if it has old oil or if it has low oil. You want to just ultimately make sure the turbo has all of the lubricant and the best quality that it has. And your goal is to ensure that your turbo is working as less as possible, so that way it can have more endurance, so you can have fun in your vehicle. The next thing is, when you're operating your vehicle in your turbocharger, the temps get so hard and so hot. So a lot of times, let's say you're pushing your car really hard, you're doing a motocross, or you're racing, or you go to the track. A lot of times people will go to the gas station or go somewhere and they will immediately shut their car off. What happens is, your car has been working so hard, so that oil will sit in there, and your turbo can bake that oil that's in there and ultimately wear out the bearings and the seals. So if you're pushing your car really, really hard, you want to make sure that you stop and you let your car idle for a while. A good thing to do is, if you're pushing it hard, and you guys may notice this, your fan will still be on. So when that fan goes off, that's a good time to turn off your engine. But if that fan comes on after you stop, that's a bad sign, and that shows that you could have some residual oil still in your turbo. So you want to make sure that you let your car cool down before you turn it off. Also, you never want to press the throttle as you stop and you just turning off your engine, because what's going to happen is it's going to cause that turbo to spin, and it's not going to have that oil recirculating into the engine. So if you stop your car, don't press the throttle. Just keep I don't know if you have a habit of doing it, if you drove a stick, but don't press the throttle, because your turbo will spin, but it won't have that oil to pump it back in. So those are going to be some of the things that can help with the heat soak on the turbo. And I know, like I said, ultimately a lot of it can be user awareness, but at the same time, we do have a KO3 turbo, which is pretty small, so it can burn out really fast, or it can get heat exhausted really fast. And these are just some things to get the best you can out that turbo and have fun throughout the day. Okay, last but not least, oil consumption. It's well known in the Audi platform, in all of the vehicles, there's a super oil consumption issue, and they still offer warranty, I believe, extended warranty up to 100,000 miles if you have an oil consumption issue. And essentially what's happening with this oil consumption issue is that the pistons and the rings would get massive, blow by, causing you to burn, too much oil. And a lot of engines failed, and a lot of people had to get their engines redone. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people who exceeded the warranty, so they couldn't get it done by the dealer. There's a lot of people who still have the issue, who have a car they bought from someone else. So ideally, the biggest thing to do was to replace the pistons and rings. But unfortunately, if you're in a position where you can't, if you have to deal with the problem, an option that you can use that can help to deal with the problem to prevent your oil from burning a lot is to buy some Lucas oil stabilizer. And I'm going to show you guys a this oil stabilizer does is it helps to fill in those gaps around the pistons and the rings where that blow by will go through. It kind of gives it more of like a sticky substance to help prevent blow by. And it ultimately even helps, like I said before, with engine oil leaks as well. So it gives you that thickness that you need in your vehicle. I can definitely say it worked for me, and I know a lot of other individuals that it worked for as well. So that's kind of something you can do to help improve your oil consumption. And even if you did replace your pistons and rings and you drive your car hard and you're starting to still have that issue of burning oil, I would definitely say get Lucas oil stabilizer. So that's ultimately, the 5 top things that I don't like about my Audi and the issues that I've had with my Audi, and those are my solutions and suggestions to help improve it. I'm not an expert. I'm just someone who goes through trial and error, and I share my experience on this platform. So, I've learned a lot from a lot of my followers as well. Like I said, this is a 2020 forum. So if you guys have any suggestions or ideas, feel free to give input, put it in the comments. These are my top 5 things that I don't like about my car, and just my suggestion on what you can do to help those 5 things. So like I said, hit that like button, that subscribe button, hit the notification so you can get all notifications. I'm going to keep the videos coming with as much knowledge as I can. Like I said before, I have different categories. Make sure you check out my playlist. I have one on tuning, car aesthetics, as well as vehicle repairs. I appreciate all the subscribers. Thank you. Peace. I'm out.